Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Energetic Shift podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something I am absolutely bowled over by at the moment. Literally, it seems to be everybody and their bloody dog around me is feeling the same way. Like I'm seeing it over and over again with my clients, with my audience, and probably you if you're honest, right? And this is patience, or more specifically, the complete and total utter fucking lack of it. So we are so terrible at patience, myself included, right? On and off over the years. And because I'm a high achiever and because I want everything and I want it yesterday, by the way, I am the same. I'm not sat here on some frigging high horse, pretending that I've never had this whole I'm patient and I'm laid back and I trust and all of this sort of shit, right? When something's not moving fast enough, I absolutely have in the past and occasionally can still do this. Ask anybody that knows me. And I think this is one of the biggest main reasons why I see it so blatantly in other people. But I've done a lot of work on this, and I want to share it with you today because I think that it's one of the biggest things that sabotages people's business. And I've known this for a long time. There used to be a saying in the network marketing company that I used to work with, and it was just before you're about to make the biggest breakthrough ever, you quit or you throw in the towel or you stop or you slow down or something happens, and nobody ever used to take into consideration the lead up time. So today I want to share with you exactly what work I've done on this over the years. When you start something, it could be a new offer, a new direction, a new way of showing up, and it's been a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months, right? And it's not where you want to be yet. And your brain is starting to do the frigging thing. Is it working? Should I change it? Maybe I need a different strategy. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe it's the niche. Maybe I need to change the niche. Maybe it's the content. Maybe it's me. How often do you actually say that? Do you think that, right? And before you know it, you've completely and utterly dismantled, blown to pieces, the whole thing, and you're starting again from scratch. And I know that this will sound familiar to some of you. Here's what I want you to ask yourself though. The thing that you've already built, the clients you have, the reputation, so the business, whatever you've got, the way people already trust in you and talk about you, how long did that take? How long did it actually take you to get to the point that you are at now? Because I'm telling you, it didn't take weeks. I know it took years, right? It took years of showing up, of saying things, of helping people, of building trust, of getting it wrong sometimes and carrying on anyway. And if you're brand new to business and you haven't got clients yet and you're feeling like this and you're thinking like this, let's take your career, or let's take motherhood, or let's take something else that you've worked at and you're at a place where you feel achievement. It doesn't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight. It takes years sometimes of showing up, saying things, helping people, building trust and getting it wrong and then carrying on anyway, right? So why, when you start something new, do you give it 6 weeks and then decide that it's failed? We forget how long things actually take, because once something's working, we only remember the good bit, right? We only remember all of the achievement. The slow, uncomfortable, unsexy fucking beginning of everything disappears from our memory. But the beginning always exists for everyone. We all start somewhere, even the people you're comparing yourself to. And I just said this to somebody the other day. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is underneath all of this impatience, and it's your body. And those of you that know me know that I do a lot of work with the nervous system. I do a lot of work with the body. It's all about the feeling for me. What I know to be true, when you are in that frantic energy, why isn't this working? What do I need to do? What am I missing? The desperate energy of not having what you want yet, your nervous system is in survival mode. Genuinely, your body does not know the difference between real threat and the threat of a launch not converting. Like, it doesn't understand the difference. It just feels danger and responds accordingly. And the danger that the nervous system sees is just the unfamiliarity. That is it. And when you're in that state, you are not creative, you are not making good decisions, you are not magnetic, and you are not clear on anything. You're not fun to be around. You're desperate and you're gripping onto anything and everything. And your audience can feel that energy. They really can. And I know that sounds a bit woo for some people, and that's fine. I mean, that's not even scratching the bloody surface based on last week's podcast. But just think about it logically, right? When you're desperate, when you're frantic, when you're grasping at straws, does that feel good to the person on the receiving end? No, it doesn't, because it doesn't feel fucking good to you. So the work isn't always to do more, to push harder, to try another strategy. Sometimes the work is get back into your body. Regulate yourself. Come back to what you actually know to be true. And this is what I do. When I notice I've gone into my head from my body and I've got into that spin and that spiral of, is this working? What's happening? Why aren't people buying? I stop myself. I recognize it. I'm aware of it. I move my body. I breathe. I remind myself of what I've already built and why it works. Sometimes this takes longer than others. It all depends on how I'm feeling at the time. But doing something that feels fun, doing something that's light, doing something that just allows me to just feel safe in my body. Because a calm, grounded version of me makes infinitely better decisions, basically, than a panicked one. And the same is true for you too. I also want to be really clear about something before someone takes this the wrong way as well, right? Patience does not mean sitting on the fucking sofa doing nothing and hoping for the best, right? That's not patience. That's fucking avoidance. And we're not doing that either. Patience is continuing to show up consistently, calmly, without the desperate energy, even when you see the results aren't coming yet. There's a quote that gets thrown around a lot about planting seeds, right? And I know that it's a little bit of a cliche, but honestly, it's a cliche because it's true. You plant the seed, you water it, you give it what it needs, and then you trust the process. You don't dig it back up every 3 days to check if it's grown yet, right? Nobody does that. They sit and wait patiently for it to sprout out of the soil. But that's exactly what we're doing with our business, right? When we haven't got that patience. We put something out there, we give it 2 weeks, then we decide it's not growing fast enough, so we dig the whole thing fucking back up and we start again. And then we wonder why nothing is ever gaining any sort of traction or momentum. And I'm going to tell you something that absolutely blew my mind when I first heard of this, right? And actually, it came from the first place I heard it from was Melanie Ann Layer. And Melanie Ann Layer talks about the pineapple effect. A pineapple takes 18 months to grow. 18 months for one pineapple. And nobody's out there at month 6 digging up a pineapple seed and asking if it's working or trying something else. They just trust the process and let it grow. Your business is the pineapple. Give it 18 months. Stay in the thing. Keep going. Give it a real chance. Right. Let me tell you this bit, right? A lot of the rushing, the check-in, the needing it to happen now comes from control. And the control is almost always rooted in fear. And I know this personally, trust me. I grew up in a world where things felt very unpredictable. Money was always tight. Life was uncertain. And I had to grow up fast. And so I became really, really, really good at trying to control outcomes. If I could just manage everything, keep everything in check, make sure nothing went wrong, I felt safe. And for a long, long time, I thought that was how everything was meant to be built. Like, that's just Danielle, driven, on it, tenacious, always moving. But actually, what was happening was that my need for control was actually strangling my business. And the real growth and the big stuff, the income jumps and the expansion, that requires you to let go. And I wasn't doing that. It requires you to trust and to allow the things to unfold in their own time. And I wasn't doing that. Control absolutely refuses to do that. So if you recognize yourself in this, and I think a lot of you will, the question isn't just how do I become more patient? The question is, what am I so scared of that I can't let this breathe, that I can't be calm and trust? Because that fear is the thing that you really need to work on. So practically, what do I want you to actually do with this, right? So first, I want you to give yourself a real timeline, not the panicked, desperate one that you have in your head, an actual reasonable timeline. If you're building something new, 6 months of consistent, intentional effort before you decide it's not working. That is not me saying it's going to take you 6 months to do something new, right? Please do not take those words out of my mouth, because that is not what I'm saying. I want you to have patience for 6 months. I want you to give it a real chance for 6 months before you turn around and go, it's not working. Secondly, I want you to get out of your head and into your body every single day. I don't care how you do it, whether it's walking, breathing, dancing in your kitchen like nobody's frigging watching, whatever brings you joy and brings you back to yourself, because your best thinking doesn't happen when you're in that desperate energy. It happens when you're regulated. Thirdly, stop measuring shit every day. You are not a stock market. Weekly check-ins are enough. Look at the trend, not the moment. And when you're auditing yourself, please, by all means, check in with your feelings on a daily basis, but check in on any other external measurement needs to be weekly, monthly. And then the last thing is just ask yourself honestly, is this not working, or is it just not working yet? Because those two sentences are completely different things. One is a conclusion, the other is just a Tuesday, right? And I'm going to leave you with this. The version of you that you're working towards, like that higher self you, that more evolved version of you, the one with the business that flows and you're feeling calm, the clients you love, the income that feels easy, she's not in desperate energy. She doesn't wake up desperate every morning. She wakes up refreshed and trusting and calm. She's not refreshing her stats at fucking midnight. She's not dismantling her offer every 6 weeks because someone else is doing something different. She trusts herself and she trusts her work. And you don't get there by doing everything faster. You get there by deciding to stay in it, even when it's uncomfortable and slow or slower than you'd like. And you can't see the results yet. The seeds are in the ground, babe. Trust the season. And I will speak to you next week.